Hey everybody, welcome back to the Rattle Bunny's Den. Matt here. We are looking at the audio board for Ashley's Game Gear. Yes, we're back there again. It's been a long year that I've had this, probably actually more than a year. Doing it for a friend of mine, his girlfriend Ashley, the mother of his beautiful kids. Had this Game Gear that she loved as a kid, and it wasn't working anymore, and I had read and seen videos where it was just a simple recapping to get it up again, and I figured it would be simple. And yeah, so not simple. Lots of things have changed with this. It's got a new motherboard, simply because the other motherboard, it had a lot of lifted pads and some damaged traces, some of which I did. I do apologize for that, but this board was redone by one of the better repair guys out there, just simply because, you know, Ashley and Joey are two really good friends of mine, and I really didn't want them to have to suffer due to my lack of experience. So I went ahead and got them the new main board for it, and it came with the audio board and the power board. Unfortunately, when it got here, the audio board was not working, and that was because of that capacitor that just came off there. And the reason being, it wasn't connecting to the negative pad because the big blob of glue underneath it didn't allow that to happen. Somehow they missed that in quality control at the other guy's place, but we get it fixed pretty quickly here. Let's see, the other things that have changed, the case, you'll notice the serial number is different. It's just the plastic for the case. You know, the new board came in a new Game Gear, so I went ahead and just used what we had. I still have the original board here that I will try to fix at some other point, but that'll be down the road when I have a little bit more experience. As far as this goes, it looks like I'm violently pulling the glue off and in danger of damaging the board, but we're looking through a microscope that I just got recently. It's a great microscope. So here we're taking the old solder off, and I got the solder wick stuck to the board, showing my lack of experience here. But the important thing, even when you don't have experience, is to just not panic, to take your time and evaluate what's going on. Remember, this is through a microscope, so it looks a lot worse than it is. So we just get it all gathered together, figure out where it is actually stuck, add a little bit more heat, and it should come off pretty readily. Most of the old solder's off anyway at this point. So yeah, here it comes. That'll pop right off there. And careful not to hit the other components. Some folks say that you should use hot air to do this stuff. Maybe they're right, but there's too many other small components right around it and plastic components around it. I didn't feel comfortable doing that, so I didn't. And so we add a little bit more flux, and now we're going to stick it back on. It's not very complex. You get one end tacked there. I'm a little bit off target there, but I fixed that here in just a second. So we add a little bit more solder and slide it over. You can see how it makes a fairly neat contact, neat connection there. The other side is still not connected yet. About ready to take care of that coming up here, I think. This new microscope that I have is going to really help me a lot. I'm learning a lot about microsoldering. If you like what you see here, I'll add links in the description for all the equipment that I've been using. It's a learning curve. There's a lot that needs to be worked out, and you got to get a technique going. And just like with anything that has it's a skill position, micro soldering, even on this level, which is not exactly micro soldering compared to what some of the other guys like Voltar do, and Jess out there at iPad Rehab and Louis Rossman. Those guys are soldering kings and queens. They're amazing. Hope to be that good at some point. But we did get the capacitor stuck in there, and now we're looking at the back side of the board, and as you can see here, the board that came with it had a little bit of corrosion. A little bit of alcohol took care of that, a little scrubbing. And so the back side's nice and clean now. And then we go and we scrubbed off the front side, got all the old flux off and all that other stuff. And that was that part of the repair. Now for the reassemblage of it. Reassemblage? Is that a word? Assemblage? Assemblage is a word, but yeah. So at this point I had it together, and I was using a donor audio board from a different Game Gear that I have, just to test and make sure that the audio board was to blame and that there wasn't something else causing it, something, you know, from maybe the processor, maybe something else. I tested it with several games initially and it had no audio. Then I took the donor board out of the Game Gear that I had sitting around, and I knew that audio board worked, and plugged it in and it worked just fine, so I knew that the problem had to be with the board that came with the new system here. As you can see, the old one has the old CAN capacitors on it. So I'm just going to take the shield off here and then pull that board, and then we'll put in our new board. I'd even ordered another one of the chips that were on there from a place, I think it was in China. Wasn't sure if it was a real chip or not, but I was relieved to know that the chip wasn't the problem, although that probably would have been easier than a surface mounted capacitor. But I'm glad that we got it together and working. So that's the board that we just fixed, and putting the shield in. Ooh, sort of a editing glitch there. Now we finished throwing it all together, and put the case back together and give the games a little bit of a try. Try that one coming up here. You'll hear the audio working here in just a second. I apologize ahead of time because for some reason there's a lot of interference with the audio that I got this morning doing this. By the way, if you like what you see here, please like and subscribe. It really does help me. And if you'd like to help support the channel, I do have a Patreon page. The links will be in the description below. Thanks for watching. Testing it with Battle Tank, Super Battle Tank, sorry. It may not work. We have a working game here.